So with that said, I want to jump right into it. This first session today that we're going to be talking about is two different slide presentations that I have. We'll go through pretty quickly. The first one is the 7 money personalities. And then the second one is something that is an introduction to what I call 4TO, which stands for the 4 types of wealth. So I like the little head shake there. She's ready. So I want this to be interactive. If there's any pressing questions, I would just ask for the sake of the flow. Try to write it down on your phone. Don't forget it, scribble it down somewhere, save it for the dedicated Q&A at the end, and I'll revert back. That way we just keep things flowing for everybody, all right? And then the way that we have this structured is that this is very much kind of set up to be part of how you should have your finances kind of done. So there's a reason that we're not jumping straight into Guillermo stuff on trading and investing. Well, guess what? If you haven't done these other foundational things, you probably shouldn't be doing that yet. And if by the end of the course, you're like, well, hey, Stephen, I'm still working on steps like 3 and 4. We're not there for the investing stuff. Still go, because it's going to be relevant and valuable information for what it is that you will eventually want to get to. So with that being said, let's jump out today. So the first one, 7 money personalities. Which one are you? So before I even go to the next slide, I'm sorry, that's the next one. So we are just going to go ahead to the next slide because that's the next one. All right, here we go. All right, so a couple quick quotes. Money is very important. A lot of important people over history talk a lot about money, even though they're not financial experts. Why? You've got Benjamin Franklin. An investment in knowledge pays the best dividends. For where your treasure is, your heart will be also. This guy named Jesus said that. So never spend your money before you have it. Thomas Jefferson, another pretty important person. No one can serve 2 masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. That was Jesus again. This is a theme here. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor. Seneca. So for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. The Apostle Paul. So the Bible keeps coming up as a theme here. Yeah, we had presidents and all these other guys talking about it, but the one interesting theme, and I could have included so many others in this, is that Jesus specifically talked about money a lot. And the Bible at large talks about money a lot. So fun facts, Jesus discussed money more than heaven and hell combined. He encouraged people to invest. He covered debt and money management practices, told people to give 10% away, said everyone should pay their taxes, even if we don't want to sometimes, okay? So use money to help those in need, and then to depend on God and not money is the ultimate theme of it. And the reason I think that Jesus talks about money so much when it comes to that is because that's our natural inclination, is that as we get more money, we don't feel like we need as much stuff, because we don't. You can buy a lot of the things that you need to live, on a daily basis. So therefore, that false independence and security that money gives can a lot of times take you away from God. Everybody knows the whole, rich man in the eye of the needle saying, it's difficult. So there's a reason why Jesus was really focused on talking about what money means to us before he ever really talked about hey, here's how you make money, right? Money is an expression of our desires. So for me personally, I don't believe that if any of you in here won the lotto tomorrow, that much of you would change. I think for the most part, my belief would be that you would actually be the exact same person. And what money would do is enable you to be that much more of that person. If you're greedy, guess what? You ain't going to share that money. You're not going to give it away to anybody else. You're not going to donate much of it, maybe for tax purposes, but you're not going to go looking to do good. If you're a generous person, then you may go, hey, do I have everything I need? But you know what? I really want to give a heavy portion of this away. If you care about your family, you're going to spend that money probably taking care of your family. If you don't like your family, they're probably not going to get a dime. So I don't think that money does anything in particular to people other than reveal our heart's desires. So the reason that it's so important, the reason we're starting out with the money personalities today is because if it was good enough for Jesus to talk about a whole bunch, I think it's good enough for us too. All right, so here's the question. What is so important about money that presidents, poets, philosophers, and the Bible talk about it so much? So we talked a little bit about this. Money gives us the reason, and if anything, I probably should have got to this slide and then come here. So, but it gives us the opportunity to express our soul's desires is a big one, the good and the bad, right? And we can have both. You can have good desires and bad desires with money. It can go both ways. It's not like you're just on one side of the fence. Money can give us a false sense of superiority and independence. This definitely happens. I will never forget the first time I rode in a Porsche. I was probably about 14 years old, starting to notice like cool stuff like cars and different things like that. We were down in Naples with my uncle, and he had a Porsche convertible. We went rolling down, and I remember looking at him and saying, like, I immediately feel like I am cooler than everybody else walking on the sidewalk right now. And he started laughing. I just had this sense. I was like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. I'm loving this. So, there's something to be said about having money and cool stuff and what it can do to our egos. And then the other thing is, like we said, the freedom to have whatever you desire can actually ruin you because our desires are often immoral and sinful. If you're familiar with Stoicism at all, Stoicism is a practice of denying yourself, philosophical thing, and it is actually finding its roots in a lot of billionaires nowadays. And the reason for that, Jack Dorsey, who is not going to be the owner of Twitter for much longer, but is right now, is very notorious for this and lives with virtually nothing, even though he can afford almost anything. And the reason is he's discovered, even though he's not a Christian, he's recognized within himself that, man, having the ability to get anything I want is a problem for me. It's a problem for me as a person. This is somebody who's not even a Christian, who has recognized the fact that the ability to have whatever you want is not necessarily a good thing for your soul. So it's something interesting that people, even outside the realm of what Jesus was teaching, have started to realize that there's some downsides to this. So this is why it's important to, as they would say, know thyself. And it's interesting that in philosophical circles, the phrase know thyself is its own sentence. That's it. It's just know thyself. And when you look at that, you start digging deep into it, you realize how important your behavior is when it comes to money. Because this is the reality. The reality is that becoming wealthy is 20% knowledge and 80% behavior. I could teach everybody in this room in 20 minutes how to become a millionaire. And all of you are like, okay, Stephen, shut up. Get to that presentation. That's the one that we want to see now. The problem is this. You can go find a lot of the information that I would share with you on YouTube, on the internet, probably talking to some local guy who's made some money. It's not, there's a lot of different ways to become a millionaire, and it's not a particularly difficult secret. It's not a secret at all, actually. So if knowledge is not the problem, then why don't we have more millionaires? Why is everybody in this room, why is everybody in the city of Gainesville, very educated city, why don't we have 50% millionaires? Because it's not about what you know when it comes to money. It's about your behaviors. There's a reason that in the trading world, what we will get to, they have something called the fear and the greed index. The fear and the greed index measures how confident people are feeling about the world around them. And if they're fearful, they don't buy anything, right? We groundhog, we go underground, we take all our money with us, and we don't spend anything. So that causes the markets to go down. That's why they track it. But when we feel greedy, when everything's going great, think 2019, pre-pandemic, we were living our best lives, right? Stock markets was up, people were making money, spending tons of things, the economy was booming. We were greedy. We were like, hey, everything's great. We're spending money, spending money, spending money. It makes things good. So that is why the behavior is so important. Now, quick show of hands. Anybody ever done a Dave Ramsey course? Okay, yeah, about half the room, so that's good. So you will be familiar, Dave likes to talk about this saver spender mentality. He kind of draws a line straight down the center. This was actually a perfect picture for it because it's literally just right down the middle. Well, the problem with this is that it's incredibly simplistic, in my opinion. I remember being younger, having the whole saver spender talk. I think I was doing it with somebody who wasn't even a Dave Ramsey course, but they were talking about the two. I didn't really identify with either one of those. I was like, I'm kind of a little bit of both. Like I'm not like a hardcore, I hide my money on my mattress saver, and I'm not this flippant, I just throw my money around and spend kind of thing. So it didn't really do much for me seeing this dichotomy. And the reality is there's more to it. So what financial psychologists, economists, all these people have come out with is about 7 different personality types, which is what we're going to talk about today. we're going to get into these profiles a little bit. So the 7 you can see here is the compulsive saver, the compulsive spender, and that would be your classic, what they're talking about, that saver spender dichotomy. No surprises there. The compulsive money maker. I know everybody's like, I want to be that one. So 4 is the indifferent to money. 5 is the saver splurger. 6 is the gambler. And 7 is the worrier. So we're going to dive into what each one is a little bit. And as you go through and can read some of your stuff, if you guys want to come in, you can. You don't have to stand at the crack of the door. It's okay. Oh, thank you. Oh, man. I appreciate that. Are there several? Oh, no. Okay. Well, we're going through all my fun memes and gifts. All right, guys, hold on just a second with me. I'm sorry, everybody. One disadvantage of Zoom here. Boop, 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 boop. Okay, yeah, definitely going to have to keep that in mind. Oh, that's fun. Is it coming up here? Share screen. There. Admit. Here. Let's stop my share real quick. Sorry, anybody who's in here and not have that. Okay. I think we got them. I don't see anybody else, but they could have dropped. If you see that pop up again, just let me know because that is not available on my thing. All right. So get back to this. All right. So getting into the first money personality type. All right. The compulsive saver. Love this Dave Chappelle meme. If you've ever seen the skit, it's pretty funny. He's just holding his cash, right? So you consistently put away money sometimes with no actual end goal in mind. You believe saving money is the only way to feel more secure in life. You're very frugal. You may even have friends that reach out to you on the latest things like, deals, always looking if you're, going on a trip or looking to buy something like, oh, I know somebody was going to do that. You call them up, see if they know the best deals. So the pitfalls of the compulsive saver is that people can be so afraid of losing their money that they go their entire lives without spending it on whatever they work to save. My grandfather is a great example of this. So, he had a lot of money put away, lived in the same place for a long time. Now, granted, he got to play a lot of golf, but he didn't do much else with it. And then, they might choose to skip out on hobbies or activities that could bring them happiness and purpose. Another one is that a lot of times compulsive savers can be scared to take on appropriate risk when investing because they don't want to see money fluctuate up or down. They want an even line, and that can really hurt them long term when it comes to retirement. So the money advice is that it's all about moderation. Learn to find balance between saving money and enjoying life. And then I'm going to throw in taking a little bit more risk that would be acceptable to make sure that your money is compounding over time when you invest. So think about where you see yourself in the future and how you can use your savings to get there. So that's a really great way to do it. And take a quick pause. Is everybody in the room relatively comfortable? We doing okay? Okay. I got lights on me, so I'm hot. So I'm just checking, make sure. I don't see anybody sweating too bad, so we're good. All right. So the next one that we have here, I cannot find my mouse. There we go. All right. The next one is the compulsive spender. I love this one. Shut up and take my money. I love this meme. So you tend to spend money on things you don't necessarily need. You have an outgoing personality and love treating people to something special, sometimes for no particular reason. My wife is not a compulsive spender at all, but I will never forget when we were dating. This would be a behavior of a compulsive spender. She's probably the opposite, but we were at her birthday. We were just dating, maybe 2-3 months, something like that. She had a whole bunch of friends and work people with her out at work, and they were just doing this little happy hour thing. And she was buying like the drinks for everybody else. And I was like, it's your birthday. Like, it should be the opposite. But she loves spending on people she loves. So she would definitely qualify as this when it comes to those moments. Actually, she might be this, because when I think about the kids too, okay, not here to measure. So you gotta watch out for these things. So when you're emotional distress, your solution is to spend, especially for immediate gratification. So one of the things a lot of us, if anybody's ever seen the movie or the TV show Parks and Rec, they have a funny little saying on there, and it's, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. What is it? When they go spending, treat yourself. So they have this day, and it's one time a year that they save up all this money for and do all this stuff. And then that one day a year, they go treat yourself and they just go crazy, spend money on the most ridiculous things. It's pretty funny. So, but we hear all this time when you hear about, retail therapy, they call it. So, oh, you're having a really bad day, girl, just go to the mall, get yourself a new pair of shoes. You're going to feel just fine right after that, right? Dude, you're not doing well. Guess what? Head on over to Dick's and get those new golf clubs you've been wanting. You're going to feel right as rain afterwards. So that is the compulsive spender mentality. Oh, something's going wrong. How can I fix it? I just need to spend some money, get that new shiny toy. So that is a compulsive spender. Pitfalls are pretty obvious. Got to watch out for debt if you're a compulsive spender. Watch out for the shopping sprees. Not saying they're terrible, but limit them a little bit. Maybe create an official national calendar day for you and treat yourself day, so you can confine it to one day, something like that. May try to hoard large purchases from friends and family. In extreme cases, it can be at risk of going bankrupt. Obviously, these are, like I said, pretty obvious stuff. But I will say this, if you are married to a compulsive spender, or if you are the compulsive spender and you are married, the biggest thing that is probably the downfall in a relationship is hiding your spending. Do not do it. Don't lie about it. Don't hide it. Okay. The reason is because trust is so important in a marriage. And a lot of times there have been a lot of people that I have coached, that I've talked to, friends that I've known, to where you have somebody who's a compulsive spender and they're in charge of the finances. So normally that's pretty, even split. It's the husband or the wife. Somebody's just responsible for the finances, managing it. But where it becomes a big issue is when that person justifies what they're spending and the other person's like, well, I don't really know, so therefore, okay, we'll just go with it. And that can breed a lot of distrust. And a lot of times they won't say anything because they don't actually know the situation. So that's just something to be careful for from a relationship perspective. If you're a compulsive spender and you know it, if you want accountability, guess what? Your husband or wife that's right there with you, great person to hold you accountable on that. So the money advice would be creating a budget plan that helps you see things from a different perspective. Remind yourself that buying a new car when you already have a nice one, for example, means sacrificing money on essential things like saving for retirement or paying off debt. So that is one of the big things that we just like to encourage people when you are a compulsive spender. Moving on to number 2, the compulsive moneymaker. Like I said, everybody probably wants to be this one. Well, maybe not. We'll see. So you believe that earning money is the secret to success and happiness. You spend most of your energy on trying to make as much money as possible. These people, guess what? They're branded workaholics usually. You get pleasure from the amount of approval and recognition from other people for your financial success. Always chasing that buck, okay? Pitfalls, usually on a strong path to achieving financial freedom, but they can enter dangerous territory if they start neglecting important relationships to prioritize their growing wealth. Obviously, like we said, marriage, dating, you can see a lot of this. There's one of my favorite sharks is Mr. Wonderful. So Mr. Wonderful loves to tell this story of this guy in college who had a very serious girlfriend, I think maybe a fiance, or he was considering getting married to, or something like that. This dude was in like Harvard or whatever, but he was also running this trading, some type of financial logistics company on the side that he had built. It was doing like 5 million in revenue, and he's just working from his house taking classes. And he had been working so hard and he was making all this money, but between the classes and that, he was having massive relationship problems for obvious reasons. He didn't have any time to spend with her. So he asked Mr. Wonderful, one of the notorious sharks out there, what should he do? Should he go with the girl or the business? And Mr. Wonderful pretty much said, which one's rare, having a $5 million business or a chick you like? So he went with the business. So that is an example of a compulsive moneymaker. Now, listen, sure, I'm not saying she was the right one or not. Maybe she could have been a little more supportive. Maybe she was being supportive and he was just being a jerk. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know the situation there. I'm not picking sides. But that's an example of the compulsive moneymaker. When you're that focused on something for a season, it can be difficult in a relationship. So that's something to pay attention to. So money advice would be realize that there's more to life than money. If you do have a sizable amount of wealth, give it purpose by helping others. And whether that means donating to an important cause, treating yourself to the family vacation you've been talking about for years. I don't know if any of you like the Christmas movie, Home Alone, but the meme comes around every year nowadays. So like, what was Kevin's dad doing to afford a house that big and fly his entire family and extended family to Paris in first class tickets. Like, that dude was loaded. It does not get talked about enough in that movie. Okay, I want to know, what was this guy doing? I'm in the wrong business. Yeah, it must have been. I've seen Guillermo's house. It's about the same thing. All right, indifferent to money. SpongeBob could not care less. Everything is sunshine and rainbows because ignorance is bliss, right? So you rarely think about money, and just the idea of creating a budget makes you nauseous. This is actually my wife, believe it or not. This is, we were talking about this, and like I said, there, for people she loves, that compulsive spender comes out, but in general, this is her. In extreme cases, you believe that money is inherently bad or evil. That's an extreme. She doesn't believe that. So that her shoes in her closet prove that she doesn't believe that. So yeah, don't worry, I'm making fun of her a lot. My turn's coming. You feel strongly that money shouldn't influence important decisions in life. Hey, that's not a terrible stance. I could see that as just, strength in some ways. Pitfalls of this is that many people who are indifferent in money feel they only need a modest amount of money to be happy, which is a healthy mindset. But things can get ugly if you get if you're not responsible with your finances, and if you depend on your partner or spouse to, handle too much of it for you. And like I said, a lot of times what you will find is you will get an indifferent to money married to somebody who has a strong money personality, whether it's compulsive moneymaker or some of the other ones that are coming up here in a second. And the problem with that, like I said, is that if there's not communication around money, that can create a lot of marital problems. I don't know if y'all have heard this, but the number one reason for infidelity is due to financial stress. So this is very much a marriage issue as much as it is anything else. And the number two is infidelity, cheating. And I would be shocked if a lot of people who were cheating didn't have some stress from financial hardship as well. So it is very important to make sure no matter where you stand on these personality types, they all have strengths, they all have weaknesses. But it's very important to make sure that you and your partner, just like a love language, understand which one each other are and be able to communicate and be, work that out and make sure, hey, you're indifferent to money, you don't care about it, that's fine. Can we talk about it one time a month for 20 minutes? That just so you know where things are, how we stand, just one time a month for 20 minutes. That's all I do with my wife. I don't overload her with facts. We don't get into all the crazy spreadsheets and projections. And hey, 5 years out, I got to see her, blah, blah. She's like, I don't want to care about that. Can I buy groceries this week? Okay, yes, you can get groceries this week. We don't need to get the cheap stuff. So that's it. If you're single, guess what? The thing you need to know if you're single is that, hey, as I'm going through, if I am an indifferent to money, if I want to attract another partner, if I want to have a spouse someday, I probably should get on it because people like showing up and you having money in the bank. Just saying. Just saying. Okay. Take it from a guy who married his wife who was $265,000 in debt. She got a great degree, great job for it. Man, we had to have some fun conversations early on with that. So that's where we are there. All right. Number 5, save a splurger. Guess what? This one's me. And man, there's a downside to this one. And I know all about it. And I'm going to tell you all about it. So you share common traits between savers, spenders. That's why when I had the saver spender conversation, this did not make sense to me. I was like, I don't really get this. I'm not really one or the other. I'm a little bit of both. I saw this saver splurger thing. Not only was this just a fantastic gift for it, in my opinion, but I was like, man, this is me. So you start saving a lot of money and then you get into spending impulses out of nowhere. When you do use your savings, you might spend on things you don't need or will rarely use. So the pitfalls. It can be emotionally exhausting when the pendulum swings from compulsive saving to compulsive splurging, okay? Saver spenders often end up stressed and disappointed in themselves for working so hard to save money only to lose it so quickly, okay? Money advice would be compulsive spenders, savers, splurgers rarely put thought into what they're spending, and they have to decide before they decide to splurge because it's very impulsive, happens last second. Before any big purchase, imagine how you will feel the following week or two. Am I going to have any buyer's remorse? Am I going to regret this? Don't lose sight of your financial goals. And this is the number one thing that helped me is having strong goal-oriented, objectives that I'm working towards every year and having a financial map tied to it. Because then when I am getting ready to, I just want to go do this thing right now. I'm frustrated. I want to go spend some big money. I haven't bought anything for myself in 6 months. I've been doing great. Got plenty of money in there. I can go blow a couple $100 on whatever. So the downside of that, like I said, is that it's a constant balance, it's a constant battle within myself of, hey, being fair, I guess you could say, to the people around me. Hey, because when I'm in heavy save mode, oh, we can't do that right now, we're saving. No, we can't do that right now, we're saving. No, we can't do that right now, we're saving. But then it's all of a sudden, whatever, here, money, just throw it around everywhere and whatever we want to do. So especially for me, being married to an indifferent to money, that is something that I have to constantly communicate, because it's one of those things where she's like, I thought you just said we were saving for this. We had this goal. You sat me down. I didn't want to talk about it. I'm an indifferent to money. Okay. You sat me down and told me we were saving to this. And now all of a sudden, that's a really fancy new golf club that you got out there and some nice new sneakers. What's going on? So, like I said, fairness in a relationship here can be tough for a saver splurger, because you can just be like, I'm sorry, I just had this moment, but it's okay, we're fine. But yeah, you're right, I did kind of say these things to you. So a little bit of a roller coaster ride with saver splurgers. One of my favorite stories of me doing a good splurge, in my opinion, was because like I said, there could be benefits to this. You got to learn to let loose a little. So me and my wife, we had I'd won a trip to Hawaii with my company, and we were extending for 3 days. So we extended, looking online, beautiful view of the ocean, looking out the door, right there on a golf course. You can see the water, all this other stuff. So we're like, hey, this place is really nice. Nice on pictures. We get there, and all of a sudden we're in the taxi along the coastline. And funny thing about Hawaii, if you don't know this, it's pretty much volcanoes that jutted out of the ocean, right? So it goes up. Well, the cool thing about islands is that you get a great view of the water anywhere on the freaking island, because you just keep going up and it's ocean everywhere. So we went and had no car 20 miles inland to this crappy golf course. And the pictures were so saturated green that it looked great. When I got there, it was nice and brown, because they were in a water drought at the time. Could I see the water right past it? Yeah, sure. Because again, it's an island and we're at a high elevation with nothing but volcanic rock around us and some crappy little resort pool. And I'm like, I did not fly 12 freaking hours to get out here and do this. And then to make it even more fun, they didn't even have AC, because apparently they just opened up the door and you just let the breeze through. Too hot for that. We got in there. The place was trashy. It was a mess. Long story short, we went from plan A to plan F in a second. My wife goes, what's plan F? I said, F it. I went, we got a nice convertible rental car. I had budgeted this whole trip out. It was going to be nice, all this other stuff. Shredded that thing, threw it out the window. We got a nice convertible car. I said, find the fanciest hotel within 20 minutes of here. We found it. It's on a lake, or it's on a cliff. Like, this thing literally looks like a James Bond villain hideout. It's just concrete down this cliff. It's an amazing, you pull into it and you're on the 9th floor. Like, it's crazy. Like, it's so cool. So that's what we did. We got the nicest hotel, we got the convertible, did all this other stuff. We just plan F'd it and went there. No regrets. One of our favorite memories. You know what I mean? So again, pluses and minuses to being a saver splurger. I told my wife, I said, I'm only going to promise you one thing outside of the fact that I'll always love you in our marriage. I said, life with me will never be boring. Doesn't mean it's always going to be great, but it won't be boring. All right. So the gambler, here we go. You think I have a gambling problem? I bet you $100 I don't. Some of you will get that in a second. Don't worry. You share common traits between moneymakers and spenders. The thrill of risk and promise and reward is a pleasure unto itself that you can quickly get lost in. You gamble your money away sometimes for the purposes of escaping boredom. Okay. It's not and contrary to popular belief, maybe you don't need a lot of money to be a gambler. Sometimes you don't even need money to be a gambler. You can gamble plenty. It's unusual for gamblers to encounter sudden windfalls or devastating losses. So I'm sorry, not unusual. So a lot of times you can come into money real quick. You can lose money just as fast as a gambler. So that's why sometimes it's hard to talk them out of it. They're like, oh, well, I was doing this trade and I just made, $3,000 the other day. Well, that's cool. What'd you do last week? I mean, I lost 4,000 last week, but let's focus on the 3,000 I made this week, right? So you can really get caught up in the endorphin rush with it. So the most obvious risk is when gambling gets out of control. You can borrow against things like retirement, children's college fund, yada, yada, and make up for losses. Money advice is the goal is to be introspective and strict with the financial risks you take. You have to really set down a budget, and I highly recommend accountability if this is your personality type. Balance and security are essential to have. So setting aside monthly savings before making any big financial decisions is a big thing to do. So one thing I always recommend people when they identify as a gambler, because there can be some good things with gamblers. Sometimes you can really take some big risks that pay off. So a lot of people that get in early on companies that do really well, things like crypto early on. I mean, you had to have a gambler mindset going into that of, I could lose all my money or I could make 100x. I mean, so there is elements to this that can really pay off. It's not all bad being a gambler, but you have to make sure that the basics are taken care of. You have to follow strong, strict rules. And like I said, accountability with people. Sometimes, and for gamblers, sometimes your spouse is not the best person to hold you accountable in these areas. The reason I say that is because you know your spouse well, and you can out-talk them sometimes if you really want to. If you're a gambler with a silver tongue, you've probably justified it a million times to yourself, your losses, and it's that much easier for you to convince other people that are important in your life why that is. So sometimes your spouse isn't the person. Sometimes you need somebody outside of that, like a best friend that knows you and can call you out on it. That's in extreme cases. Again, there's a lot of varying levels to these. It's not like you're extreme if you're a gambler, potentially you're going bankrupt, guaranteed at some point in your life. But it's just something to be aware of depending on where you are on the spectrum of being a gambler. So good and bad, good and bad. The last one is the worrier. Hopefully nobody looks like this. This is kind of ironic, the dripping sweat, everything going on as it's a little toasty in here. So hopefully nobody's feeling that way. And basically, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You constantly are worried that you'll lose it at any moment. You lack confidence in your ability to achieve financial freedom. And you constantly obsess over the worst case scenario of what will happen if you run out of money. Now, some of you may be going, this sounds like me, which kind of sucks because it doesn't sound like there's any kind of upside to being a worrier. That's not true, okay? But let's start with the pitfalls. It's smart to be aware of what could happen if you don't prepare for your future. But letting worry and anxiety eat away at your happiness in the present is never a good thing, all right? So the money advice here is to seek positivity around money in conversations. Work on understanding where your financial worries are coming from, whether that means talking to a financial advisor or a lot of times a therapist is a great person to talk about this. The reality is a lot of worriers normally grow up in homes that had a lot of money problems and they were exposed to that. So there is a constant fear of no matter how much, hey, I remember that one Christmas when we didn't have anything, or hey, I remember when we got kicked out of our house because my dad was a gambler, like literally and figuratively, and he lost all of our money or whatever the case was, or there can somebody in our family got sick and we had to give all the money to that and we can never get anything. There's a lot of different reasons to be a worrier. Good side of being a worrier is that they're normally very mindful of money. It's always on their mind, for better or for worse. So it's finding that healthy balance there, but you would lean more towards being mindful of money. And they tend to be more on the side of saving and making smart investments because they're not going to do anything extremely risky, but they're also worried about never having enough money. Normally pushes them to invest because they recognize reality in that the only way I'm really going to, if I am ever going to be secure with my financial freedom, I'm going to have to invest. So it's interesting the kind of behaviors you can see with a lot of worriers that are actually positive behaviors, but they're driven by a very negative and emotionally unstable kind of foundation. So that is it with the worriers. And now for the last one here, success, baby. Yes. So now that you know all this, pay attention to your behaviors this week. Just looking at money. Some of you have already gone through this. You know exactly which one it is. Maybe there's one or two that you're like, it could maybe be both. Really start paying attention. You can Google 7 money personalities. There's lots of different things out there, for you to reference. I may include some articles that I pulled it out from if you want a little more in-depth context. Identify areas of strengths and weakness that you exhibit. Remember, equal strengths and weaknesses to every single one of these personalities. None of these are superior to the other. Just like anything else, we have to know thyself, and the ups and downs have come with each one. Ask for feedback, accountability from people that know you well. If you're married, talk to your spouse. If you have parents that you're close to, or good friends who go and you hang out with, maybe spend a lot of money with, these are good people to kind of say like, hey, open-ended question here. I'm just going to be a little vulnerable. If somebody asks you, what do you think about so-and-so and how they spend their money? What would you say about me? And it could be really interesting to see what people say, right? Don't get offended. Just, hey, it's all meant to be constructive. And then the next one is, hey, let's turn this around and let's start building the healthy monetary habits. If you're one personality, don't think like, man, I'm a gambler. I wish I could be a compulsive saver or something like that. No, that's not who you are. And that's okay. There's benefits and downsides to all of these. So own what you are, and then sharpen the axe on the good stuff, and then mitigate the bad behaviors. All right. So that is it for that one. I have one other one that we're going to get into very quickly, and we'll be doing this for about 5 to 7 minutes here, and then we will get to Q&A. All right. So this one is the 4 types of wealth, and I have kind of coined a little phrase I call 4TO, just a little abbreviation. So if you hear me say 4TO, I just want to keep saying 4 types of wealth over and over again. So there's more to wealth than money. So this one, I want to ask real quick to the audience, 4 types of wealth. Give me an idea. Give me something. Okay. Cheating. Anybody else? What are other kinds of wealth that you think?
Knowledge.
Okay. Knowledge. Spiritual. Love talking about that one. I'll tell you why it's not. Yeah. Huh? Okay. We got one. Yep. Health. All right. Good. All right. When I ask people, sometimes the slide down here, this is a little bit of a giveaway, but these are the responses that I get the most when I ask that. Okay. Boom. Investments, dividends, passive income, real estate, cryptocurrency, money, stocks, cash. These are the things that I get when we're not sitting in here talking about money, and you're kind of prepped for the fact that, oh, we're not talking about that kind of wealth. So we as Westerners specifically think very much financially when it comes in terms to wealth. Oh no, that's not good. That's fine. We'll do that later. Got to upgrade my Zoom. So all of those are one type of wealth, financial. Okay. But it shows where our minds go when we consider what wealth is. So and let's be honest, if you really were just sitting out there and somebody said, oh, look at that person, they're really wealthy. What's the first thing you're thinking of? Oh, let me see the nice car. They got the Bugatti, they got the Lambo. Where's the yacht, right? We're not thinking, when we say, oh man, that person's really wealthy, we don't go, oh, they probably have a lot of time on their hands to do whatever they want. Oh, you know, they're probably in great health. You know, that I still don't. And I made this damn slide deck. You know what I mean? Somebody says they're wealthy. I still don't think that way. And I know the answers to the test. I made the test. Okay. So let's get into it. It stems with one particular problem. And the problem is what we envision as success. Okay. That is the problem. Our culture has perverted what is important and focused on one thing at all other costs. We have fell for the lie that the number in your bank account is what you are worth as a person, and the title of your job is more important than the title at your home. The problem is we measure success by focusing on a person's financial wealth instead of their true wealth. And guess what? We're not special. This isn't something that just comes from, being an American or anything like that. You want to know some people that love some money? Chinese people, and they don't even live in capitalism, right? So this is a human condition that we're talking about. Jesus talked about this in the Bible. He's talking about, hey, why do you have the rich man come and say, sit at my table, and you just tell the beggar, hey, there's a little seat in the corner for you. I'll throw you some scraps. This is a human condition. We are used to treating people who are wealthy, who are successful, with preferential treatment. And that is a human condition. The favoritism is very natural there. So we have to fight that. And anything that is innate and sinful in us, guess what? It's going to come out into culture. So I want to throw out a scenario to you, and we'll see if this works out right. Is this person successful? So here's my question. A person that's $5 million is debt-free at the age of 40. That's all you know about somebody. Would you say they're successful? Yeah, I would. Okay. And is vice president of a very important, well-reputed company. Wow, okay. Yeah, good company. All right. Yeah. Still successful in my brain. Where their employees regard them as an amazing boss. I mean, can I get a handful? I mean, like even the people that he works for like him. Yeah, like this guy's successful. There we go. All right. So, but then, but their spouse is divorcing him. I mean, but everybody else likes him, right? But I mean, he's got a lot of money. He's done really well for himself. But and he doesn't have a good relationship with the kids who misbehave due to broken promises, lack of parental influence, and missed family time. Okay, is this person still successful? Oh, and now this person just found out that they have a chronic health issue from stress and overwork. No, personally. So it's funny how in our world, we just focus on the top two. Oh, is this person successful? Oh, yeah, they got money. They're working hard. They're at a big company. They're in that skyscraper. Yeah, they're successful. And granted, a lot of times that's the only, especially from a professional standpoint, that's all we get to see, so there's some fairness there from the outside looking in. Yeah, he's got the nice car, wife's beautiful, 3 kids, everybody smiling on the Facebook photo. Life must be great, but when you really dive in, that's where it's important to check who our heroes are sometimes, because hey, in the background, things are falling apart. How many of us know people when you just sit there and you're like, so-and-so's getting divorced? What? I thought things were good. Maybe you didn't know him that well, but you knew him well enough. You thought things were fine. And, shoot, I've got my own story like that too. So I thought things were going good too. But it's like, what is successful does not necessarily mean what's in our bank account. Again, if you start looking at it, oh man, that guy's kids, they're so terrible. Like, what if he has a great relation? Let's say he's not getting, and I say he, because I go to reflecting me, this can be women too. Okay. Especially in today's society where we're pushing women to go and do more and do more and do more. And there's nothing wrong with that if that's what the family has decided, but it can be an unfair yoke. So let's say this person, whoever it is, has all these things going on. Their spouse isn't divorcing them. They actually do have a really good relationship, but they still have a crappy relationship with the kids. They don't do a good job raising them, right? And they still have that. Like, where do we draw the line here of what success is? What if they don't have the bank account, but their spouse isn't divorcing them? The kids love them, and they don't have chronic health issues. Is that person successful? So it's not just this, just cut out the money, because guess what? You can have all these things, but especially, I'm going to say this as a man because I still believe this, it's not a big deal. I actually love it. My wife's going to be carrying the bills for us in a little bit here, because I'm going to go start my own company and she'll be making all the money. So there's nothing wrong with a woman out earning a man. I think it's great if she does. But what I think as a man, a definition of that is you have to have the capability to be able to provide for your family. So that's the point. It doesn't matter if she's making more than you or not. It's if she doesn't want to work, can you carry the load? So again, the money thing, that has to be part of the equation too, in my opinion, when it comes to success. So it's about balance. What can we get all of these things, the time, the health, yada, yada, can we get all these in there? And now we're going to get into what the 4 types of wealth are. We've got most of them, right? So financial, we all know that one, time, health, and social. Now that one is the one that most people never guess. I would say out of all the other ones, everybody guesses that, but social wealth, what does that mean? What does social wealth mean? Well, unfortunately, we live in a society nowadays to where suicide is becoming a larger and larger problem. And it's a very complicated issue. I'm not going to get into it and tell you why, because I don't have all the answers. But I do have observations. And one of the observations that I notice, and I think about people like Anthony Bourdain, he was a very famous chef, killed himself a couple years ago, and he had all the money in the world. The dude's show was literally traveling to other countries to experience food. Like, he's not just stuck in a kitchen, like he's vacationing and doing kitchens. I mean, I don't even like cooking. I would do that show. So, I mean, it was great. He was loved by so many people, supposedly. I mean, he was famous, all this other stuff. But as we know, with so many famous people, fame does not equal deep connection. Fame does not equal, social wealth. So I'll get a little bit more into what all these are now, because I want to hurry up and get there at 1:50. So financial wealth. These are not an exhaustive list of questions, but these are some that I kind of came up with, and I'll just read off a few of them. Are you capable of investing 10% of what you earn? Can you give 10% of what you earn? Do you have money saved to take extended periods of time off if you wanted to? How long could you stop working and still afford your lifestyle? This is a mindset shift that I've had when it comes to financial wealth, really. And as you'll notice on some of these slides, some of these questions for financial wealth are the same questions I will ask about time wealth, health wealth, et cetera. They bleed into each other, and that's on purpose. They should. So, but this is something I've started thinking about money of completely differently. I don't think about money in terms of how much money is in my bank account anymore, because that doesn't mean anything. I could have $5 million, but if my expenses are $5 million a month, I can't stop working. And there's a lot. I have a friend who works at Fidelity, manages people. You can't even talk to this dude unless you have 25 million in net worth, right? Or I'm sorry, no. You can't talk to him unless you've got 25 million to invest. So not even net worth, invest. So he deals with very wealthy people down in West Palm. And he tells me the stories all the time. I don't get names, but he tells me the stories. He's like, dude, I got this one lawyer. If this guy gets fired and can't get a job the next month, he's going bankrupt. He's got a lot of money, but he's got a lot of liabilities. So how much money you have in your bank account doesn't mean that much if you have to always keep working. So for me, I started thinking about this differently, and I started thinking about my bank account in terms of how much time could I have off? If me and the wife couldn't work, we had no money coming in, how could we live? And obviously, if that happened, we would cut back on our expenses. But if we maintained our exact same lifestyle as it is right now, how long could we go? And that's how I view things now. I'm judging things by the time I could have off versus anything else. Time wealth, arguably the most important, right? Not just because of the fact that you can't get any more of it, and we don't know how much of it we have, but also just because how we use it. Oh, my mother-in-law is trying to get it. Here we go. Boom. Maybe? No? I am right on it. Really? No? It's not letting me click. All right. I'm sorry, Jeannie. I love you, but I gotta keep moving here. I don't know what's going on. So, all right. Sorry, guys. I know where she lives. I can go to the deck.